Hey everyone, so this is a tier list we did on stream of all of the seasons. I thought it would make a pretty fun video. If I seem like I'm talking to myself, I'm talking to the chat. But I thought this was a really interesting discussion. Let me know all of your rankings down below. And if you want to see more of this type of content, make sure to subscribe. We're almost at 100,000 subscribers. And thank you so much. Enjoy. Okay. The first one, Black Armory. So, our Season of the Forge. Forges, I think are way overhyped. I'm not a big fan of Forges. I think they're really quite boring in retrospect. The story, you know, this is before seasons were really, and I'm not putting this in B. I just don't want to click it around. This is before seasons were like really story driven. So yeah, but things that this season did really well. Weapon farming was obviously like, this is where weapon farming started to come into its own. I don't think it was the best version of weapon farming, but it definitely set a bar. Scourge of the Past, insane raid, right? Would love to see it return. Izanagi's Burden and Anarchy in this season. Pretty insane. And then I think the thing that really sets this season apart is Niobe Labs, right? So I think Scourge of the Past, Niobe Labs, and weapon farming were like the big parts of this season. I'm thinking high B, but I reserve the right to move it around. Or I'll give it a low A. I'll give it a low A for now. I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of rose tinted glasses when it comes to this one. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it more. Season of the Drifter, I don't even give a is an F. I am a certified hater of the season. I don't like Gambit. I think Gambit Prime was the most tedious, worst version of this. Mostly because it was paired with Reckoning, which I think Reckoning is easily the least enjoyable seasonal content they have ever made, period. The only redeeming thing about this season was 0 Hour. That's it. 0 Hour is sick. Maybe out of respect for 0 Hour, I'll put it D-, low D. Everything else about this season, the Allegiance quest never went anywhere. Reckoning, hated it. The story of the 9, do this random patrol zone, stand here while the 9 talk to you, hated it. It was, none of the weapons were really that interesting. Easily like my least favorite title to ever grind out. It was bad. There was like one good cutscene, and that's the one with the card game or whatever. That was kind of cool. I'll give it that. But not. I'll put it D-. I'll put it low D. Opulence. I love me some Opulence. High A, low S. I'll be more generous so people are nicer to me in the comments. I'll give this a low S. I'd say top 5-ish seasons of all time. Menagerie is very good. I do think Menagerie was a little overhyped, but in retrospect, but I think for the time really transformed the game. And still today, if Menagerie came out, I'd be pretty happy with it. Opulence had the Tribute Hall. It had Crown of Sorrow. It had the other side quest. It didn't really have too much story content. There was a couple here and there, but it's mostly like run around this patrol zone, find this teleporter, like that sort of stuff. But like, man, Opulence, it kind of killed, man. Also, Opulence had the best Solstice of Heroes 2019, which had the coolest armor and the best grind out of any of the Solstice, in my opinion. So while I do think Menagerie was a little overrated, I think everything else in this season was pretty peak. And I came with the Shadow title, which is my favorite title up until Godslayer. And it definitely, like, I butchered that word. Definitely, like, the title I had the most fun getting, for sure. Undying. Do we even have to talk about Undying? Vex Offensive was awful. The weapons were awful. The armor was kind of cool. The final mission was bad. Did anything else even happen? Season of the Dawn. So no raid, but this is where story-driven seasons really started, right? And I think it's like you know, there was story in Opulence, and there's a little bit in Drifter, but I feel like Dawn is where it really solidified, and the model started being like really good. I mean, no, it's S tier, man. It's easy S tier. Is it better than Opulence? I don't know, but you had Corridors of Time, and you had Empyrean Foundation. You had some of the most iconic weapons of all time. You had Sundial, which was like our first Menagerie Light, and I feel like Sundial had a great focusing system. The story was great, but there was no end game. That's the only thing. Yeah, no dungeon, no raid. But hardcore players were solving puzzles. They were farming out weapons. There was stuff to do. Empyrean Foundation was crazy. It is definitely better than Black Armory. Even though Black Armory had Scourge of the Past, I would personally rather have... What is it? It's not even letting me put it there. I would personally rather have Corridors of Time and Empyrean Foundation than Scourge of the Past. Okay, Worthy. Worthy... like, horrendous seasonal event with the Sarif Towers. The bunkers were cool. I liked this was like the start of the upgrade thing, right? There's a little bit of that in Dawn, but I feel like this is where the upgrade thing really started. End of season quest was really bugged. The Almighty event was cool. I wish they would do more stuff like that. It was pretty buggy and, you know, and maybe didn't go as they wanted it, but I thought it was really cool. A hype community event. I'm thinking low B, high C. Warmind cells were this season. That's a good point. Warmind cells were pretty goated. I'm gonna give it... The seasonal content sucked. The quality of life stuff was cool. And Trials, yeah. That's right. Trials came back too. I'm gonna say low B. Do we think low B? Very, very low B. As low B as you can get without being a C. That's where I'm gonna go. It is perfectly on that line between B and C. It should have its own tier between the two, just called Worthy. You know what? I like that idea. Arrivals. Okay. Arrivals. Surprise drop of prophecy. Great. The end of Arrivals. All of the farmable raids for like spiky armor. Great. And exotics, I think, too. Really, really, really awesome. Arrivals was really cool. Seasonal event might be unpopular opinion. I did not like. I do not think there's ever been a public event, seasonal event that I have liked. So I think that's definitely a low part of the season. The finale was really cool. Once again, another live event. Bungie do more of those, where you're sitting in the tower and you watch like the Traveler explode. But also the in-season justification for the DCV, which is like cringe. I think B. I think B is a really solid place for Arrivals. Chat's saying the story was not mid. I think like the lore was cool, but the way that was presented in game, the missions, walk up underneath a tree, kill this wizard, walk into this room, kill this wizard. I think Nokris might have came back as the final boss. I was not really a fan of any of the missions. They felt very cut and dry, personally, for this season. I'm gonna give it a high B. I think Prophecy really carried, and being able to farm. That actually carried this season more than anything. Being able to farm all the raids for the last 2 or 3 months with the delay of Beyond Light, I think, what really carried it. It was pretty good though. I'm gonna put it A-. I can't disrespect Witherhoard like that. Witherhoard plus Warmind cells was like the defining meta for a solid year. You know what I mean? Hunts, I mean, come on, right? Like Harbinger, I guess, and the Coup de Grace. The fact that you could farm that mission for the ship was kind of cool, I guess. But like, come on, Harbinger is awful. I think it is easily the worst exotic quest we've ever gotten in terms of like the secret missions. Deafening Whisper. That's where I started being a certified Waveframe lover, dude. Okay, you guys have convinced me. It's the worst one. I don't know. Can these be tied? They're both just so bad. Put them both in the DCV these, please. There you go. They're both in the DCV. Chosen. Chosen's a very divisive season. A lot of people don't like Battlegrounds. I like Battlegrounds. I don't think all of these initial Battlegrounds were a hit. I think 2 of them were. I love Proving Grounds. Proving Grounds is easily one of my favorite strikes in the game. It's pretty short. It's pretty fun. It's got a unique feel to it. What else came out in this season? Presage though? Presage and DMT. The Helm, which I think has been pretty game-changing. I think it's better than Arrivals, actually. I kind of want to do this. Is that Heresy? New Strike. I think the seasonal content was way better in Chosen than Arrivals. But I think Arrivals had longer lasting implications with Warmind cells and the Umbral engram system and like what we expect from the game. But the finale was a lot cooler in Arrivals. Presage, man. I mean, Presage alone clears. Maybe a hot take. Get ready to dislike the video, people watching in the future. But I personally think Presage is better than Prophecy. It had better secrets. The environment was way cooler. It's way more unique in terms of Destiny, which is kind of weird because Prophecy is like LSD, the dungeon. But I feel like Presage was way more unique of a take for a Bungie thing. Oh, God, man. I think Arrivals is a little higher just because of Warmind Cell / Witherhoard and farming raids. But Presage clears Prophecy. These 2 seasons could be identical, man. And like, I can't even say that Arrivals have longer lasting implications on the game because like Battlegrounds are literally the reason that we get as good seasonal content as we get now. Because they introduced Battlegrounds, people started to expect those or things that of that quality instead of seasonal like public events, and then people got sick of Battlegrounds and that pushed it to where we are now. You know what I mean? Like I think Chosen had huge ramifications on how the game exists today. I'm gonna leave it like this, but I could like tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna be like, man, I should have put it the other way. So that's how that goes. That's where I'm gonna leave it for now. Splicer. Vault of Glass 2.0. I'm gonna leave it here, but I'm gonna move it. Vault of Glass 2.0 was fine. Our first reprise raid I think was a lot of fun, and I really thought it was interesting everything they did with that. But I'm still kind of a certified Vault of Glass hater. Easily, probably my favorite seasonal aesthetic, right? The Vex Network. Override was all right. Override was kind of a closer to a public event style of seasonal event. Those were cool. I love the upgrade system for Expunge so you could speedrun them. The Curia mission was really good. The weapons were, I don't know if it's quite S tier. It's definitely, I think it's mingling with Season of the Dawn though. I think it did pretty much everything Season of the Dawn did correctly with a raid, but it was Vault of Glass as the raid. So it's like, ugh. I enjoyed Dawn a little more. Dawn didn't have a raid, but Corridors of Time, I literally have Corridors of Time tattooed on my body. You know what I mean? And Empyrean Foundation. And the raid for Splicer was Vault of Glass. If the raid for Splicer was King's Fall, I think that would push it over. Or Crota. But like specifically Vault of Glass 2.0, I'm not a huge fan of. And the Vex Network, is so cool. I think I'm happy with that placement. This is hard. This is really hard. I think a lot of people discount Lost because of how long of a season it was, and I definitely think that is a negative for it. And once again, I'm just going to leave things here, but I'm not placing it yet. I think Astral Alignment was bad. I think to this day, Shattered Realm is easily the most underrated seasonal activity of all time. Like, I really, 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 really liked you would do it once and then you get upgrades and you come back and there's more secrets and more puzzles. I think it was 3 times per all of them. I thought that was really cool. I'm overcomplicating this. Okay. I'm happy with this. I just don't think Lost is necessarily a B. I think like the seasonal side of Lost, with the exception of Shattered Realm, was a huge L. I didn't care about the story. Acres was fine. Like, it was cool from a lore perspective. I like how it transformed the game with, like, I feel like Acres is when we started really getting really in-depth, like, elemental build crafting. I mean, no end game at all. And then a huge delay until the 30th anniversary event. All right, 30th anniversary. I mean, like, come the on, right? Avarice, even though it's not the greatest dungeon in the world, is a really great dungeon. I think one thing that really helps, and Dares of Eternity is easily top 3 seasonal events of all time. The weapons were incredible. The farming was incredible. High A, low S, for sure. For sure. And I think the number one thing that really helps the 30th anniversary is how short it was. And I feel like that really, really helps into the light as well. You have essentially the amount of content that you'd fit into a season, but you squeeze it down and it's only a couple months long. But I mean, every weapon in Avarice was like a must-have. Go farm. Also the beginning of Artifice Armor? Is that right? I mean, come on, Tears of Eternity and all of those weapons. I mean, you had 12 weapons that were like must farms, or maybe like 7 or 8 out of the 12 that were must farms. All of the callbacks were really cool. This is like one of these examples where you can feel like the Bungie employees really put their all into it and they were just super creative and stuff. And I love that. The Forerunner is still super powerful to this day. That quest was kind of fun with the Master Chief vibes. Gallahorn came back. All of that sort of stuff was pretty fun. Eager Edge. Yeah, Eager Edge and Artifice Armor both debuting here. I mean, pretty easy S. Risen. More Battlegrounds. Probably... What am I going to say about those Battlegrounds? The moon one's fine. Actually, the moon one's bad. The EDZ one's all right. I don't mind it. And the Cosmodrome one is bad as well. What else came with this? I mean, I didn't like the Battlegrounds. This story was fine. Vox Obscura was part of this season. That's right, it was. Okay, I mean, yeah, Void 3.0 was pretty huge. And craftable seasonal weapons, which was fine. You know, got you in and farming for stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with this placement. I don't think it was better than Lost. At least when I think back on Lost, I get a lot more happy than when I think back on Risen. I think I'm going to lose people again on this one. I like Haunted a lot. Duality, excellent dungeon. I think, and once again, I'm just putting it here. Anytime I immediately start talking with something and drop it, that's not my actual ranking. Leviathan Patrol Zone, I'm really glad they tried that. I think that was really fun. I like the puzzles. Maybe it didn't really turn into anything. And the nightmare stuff wasn't really the best. But like all those puzzly secrets and stuff, pretty good. Solar 3.0 is insane. Duality was really fun. This was our first triple burst linear. Lots of good weapons from that dungeon, actually. The story was like fine. The scythes were good. Okay, introduced Classy Restoration, which was fine. Introduced Airborne Effectiveness. Goodbye. We'll be seeing you. No. I think I'm happy with that. Easily also, once again, Haunted had one of the best seasonal aesthetics ever. Like, just the corrupted Leviathan, fiery metal, purple, orange, like... just a baller aesthetic. I feel like I enjoy Duality more than Prophecy, and I enjoy farming Duality more than Prophecy. I think I farmed a lot for Artifice Armor. I don't remember if that was exactly this season, but farmed Keitel for all the Prophecy armor. There are so many better weapons in Duality than Prophecy. I think I'm happy with that. I really did like the farming. Like, that's probably my number one thing about Haunted. Like, I just keep thinking back, and you had there were 6 Haunted weapons, there were 6 Menagerie weapons, there were 2 more Menagerie weapons in the dungeon, plus the 4 other dungeon weapons to farm. We had so many weapons this season, and it was like and you know me, I'm like a big farmer. I had more fun farming all of that stuff for sure than I just noticed they're both era seasons. It's pretty funny. Than the farming the raids for spiky armor and exotics in Arrivals. I'm happy with this placement, I think. Oh, this is going to be probably the hardest one to rank on this entire list, okay? King's Fall 2.0, awesome. Awesome. Blows Vault of Glass 2.0 out of the water. The story was so mid. So mid. I don't even care that they reused Lost Sectors. People freak out about that. I don't really care. Catchcraft was fine. The theme of the season was really cool. Catchcraft was fine. Expeditions had the worst triumphs ever. The worst seasonal event ever, period. Expeditions were so bad. And then, insult to injury, the community event at the end. The only redeeming things about this season are Arc 3.0 and King's Fall. Yeah, Plunder almost killed Destiny. Yeah, totally. Terrible weapons. So much of Plunder was like offensively bad. The community event was so bad. The expeditions were offensive. They weren't just like nothing. I didn't just feel nothing for them, which is kind of how I felt about like the Sarif Towers. It was like, they were just boring. It was like, whatever. Expeditions were like offensively bad. The seasonal story was kind of offensively bad. You know what I mean? This should be a DCV season. This should be down here. How far does King's Fall and 3.0, Arc 3.0 drag it up? I think I'm gonna go there and acknowledge I could very easily, I could see an argument for King's Fall and Arc 3.0 to be a low C to pull this up. But I in my head, like thinking back, there are so many so bad things about this season. I just don't think I can put it any higher than that. Sarif is goated. Okay. I love Sarif's Shield. Awesome story. My one complaint about the story is Aramis didn't die. But the cinematic, it was like the first 4K cinematic in Destiny history or some shit. Where the Traveler goes up into orbit and Crow's like, like that was cool. I really liked Sarif. I think Sarif had a lot of really great qualities. I was a really fun farm. People hate on the bunkers. I think the bunker battlegrounds are easily the best set of battlegrounds we've gotten. Yeah, I like Spire of the Watcher. I don't think it's the worst dungeon. It's definitely not my favorite. I think Spire of the Watcher is like a pretty mid dungeon. I think like for community sentiment and stuff too, I think Sarif deserves this spot. And I remember starting Sarif and being really disappointed because I didn't mind them reusing the bunkers, but I knew people were going to freak out about it. And the fact that it could start at such a low sentiment and get people excited for Lightfall, I mean, I think that's a huge testament for how good that season really was. Defiance. Pretty mid all around. Pretty forgettable battlegrounds. Avalon, and also came with Lightfall, which is like, that's a tough act to follow, buddy. There's such a huge space between these seasons and these seasons, it's not even funny. It's like, the jump from B to C is crazy. It's like, any of these seasons, you pour me back there, I'd be fine. I never want to go back to any of these seasons ever again. My enjoyment in Defiance was higher than Lost because the back 2 months of Lost were a literal nothing. It was nothing. Once Shattered Realm finished, because of the delay, it was pulling teeth for 2 months. There was nothing to do. Defiance never really hit that. Was it the most interesting? No. But it was at least decent. Deep. I think Deep is underrated. I really like deep dives. I really like Whetstone. I think is cool. Deep dives. Look, Deep. Did Deep come with and Ghost of the Deep Dog? Oof. Deep dives, while not the best activity, definitely the start of the best activity. I think Deep into Wish is the best year of activities we've ever had. Period. Salvage was so bad. I forgot about Salvage. Salvage was really bad, but you didn't have to do Salvage that much, even for triumphs. It was only like 15 runs without dying or something, like, which is a lot, but Expeditions you had to do 200 of. That's why they were so bad. They did not require you to do a lot of salvage. It was just there. The worst part about Season of the Deep was what they did to my boy Valcoor. Fishing was fun too. Like, a lot of people hated on fishing. I have all the fishing triumphs. So even the 0 point ones. So I've done my fair share of fishing. I think fishing was cute. I think they required you to do too much fishing, for sure. But fishing was cute, and it was incredibly rewarding. It was ridiculously rewarding, right? I think if they just pulled it back a little bit, I think it would have been a lot better in terms of how much you were required to do. But I really do like Whetstone, the return to these super secret missions that are time gated in terms of like you enter the mission, then you have 15 minutes to do it. True, Ghost is kind of tedious after the first run. It is, but I think like, I mean, especially Ekthar, dude. Ekthar is a perfect encounter for a dungeon. I love that encounter. It's so unique. It feels great. The final boss, Simonuna or whatever, it's fine. It's fine. I really did like the flow of Deep was really fun. It was a great first time experience. And yeah, it's a little tedious to do those underwater sections every time. But I still think like Deep with the underwater sections is still better than like a dungeon that you can do faster, you know? Witch. I don't know how everyone feels about Witch. I think Witch introduced two of the strongest seasonal activities ever. Savathun's Spire was like, it's pretty standard, but it's good. I think it's elevated standard. Altars of Summoning is awesome. It is awesome. I love the aesthetic they went for. The story hit. Imbaru engine is really awesome. Crota's End 2.0 is fucking awesome. The only thing that Witch could have done better is I wish the loot was better. The loot in Crota's End was pretty mid. The seasonal loot kept, people love kept confidence, so that's awesome. I'm glad people like it so much. But I feel like so much of the loop of Witch was really great. There were secrets in Witch. I feel like the story was really great, and maybe the final cutscene could have been extended a little bit more, or there was some lore after that with like Saint 14 killing Savathun over and over again, and that sort of stuff maybe should have been extended more. The crafting, and once again, like crafting was not planned. That's not necessarily what this tier list is like, I don't really care if it was planned or not, but the fact Bungie leaned into the crafting as much as they did, if the crafting happened in Plunder, or if it happened during Lost, I feel like they would have patched it immediately. But the fact, and Lost happened before Witch Queen, so it factually could not have happened during Lost. But if that Bungie mentality existed, they would have patched crafting or taken out crafting or whatever. But the fact they leaned into it like they did, and there's the start of Bungie like really like, Destiny's about fun. Let's lean into that. I think that's awesome. And I think it's really similar for this. I think in a couple years, we're going to look back and a lot of people are going to be like, Final Shape is where Destiny turned around again. But I really think that started with the end of Deep or some of Deep and most of Season of the Witch. We're getting these super unique, inspired, creative activities with the roguelike and the card building, the deck building, and Imbaru engine and Whetstone. And you can tell like employees are really being creative and being allowed to do fun stuff. And I think that's awesome. Season of the Wish is a hard one for me. Coil, in my opinion, is the best seasonal activity there's ever been. The aesthetic was awesome. Not that many interesting weapons. Warlord's Ruin is the best dungeon. But once again, like other than the Indebted Kindness, is that what it's called? I'm not really interested in any of those weapons. The armor sets I think are kind of bad. This is such a split season for me. Warlord's Ruin and Coil are amazing. Are S tier. Easily. Any day of the week. Everything else in this season is super mid. The story was lame. Riven's wishes were lame. We're not counting Into the Light as part of this season. That's its own thing. Starcrossed was really cool. I wish the mission itself was a bit more complex and a little better. And I wish the exotic was a little better. But the story beyond Starcrossed was awesome. I'll give you that all day long. I'm going to leave it there. I'm This might be the least confident I've ever been in a tier list ever. Into the Light. But Into the Light is awesome. The weakest part of Into the Light is weirdly Whisper and Outbreak returning is my least favorite. I think Onslaught is incredible. I think this is the best loot incentive I think I've had in Destiny ever. The shiny weapons are so good. Most of those weapons are so good. And there's 12 of them versus the usual 6. Oh, Pantheon though. Pantheon clears. Oh my god. Oh my god. Pantheon might drive this shit all the way. There's no way I could say Into the Light is the best content drop Destiny has ever had. I will get murdered. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Godslayer's cooler than Shadow. The loot is better in this season. I mean, oh no. And it's free. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. There's definitely some recency bias in this too, so that makes this even harder. I mean, it is the perfect loot incentive. The meta is so good right now. You can run whatever you want and be successful. Pantheon is probably the coolest thing they have ever done. Onslaught is easily top 5, top 3 coolest seasonal activities ever. The only thing Into the Light is missing is like a narrative component, but it doesn't need it. It only needs to exist for 2 months. It's all free. It is, you can tell Bungie put their all into it. Godslayer and the 4 emblems alone. I mean, come on. Pantheon has multiple levels to introduce new people into raiding if you want to. It drops adepts from the triumphs. It drops raid exotics from our site. It is very highly curated to see how far you can go to get you prepared for the final shape raid as the coolest title ever, and as 4 emblems that are cooler than the vast majority of day 1 emblems, and it's free. Oh man, I don't think Opulence is good. Like, Onslaught clears Menagerie any day of the week. The loot in Into the Light clears any loot in this. Crown is the one unknown. Tribute Hall, yo, David, thank you. David. Tribute Hall was awesome. Tribute Hall is definitely better than Hall of Champions. I'll give you that. I guess to me, it comes down to, is Crown and the other side mission, are those better than Pantheon returning 0 hour, returning Outbreak? That's going to be a very personal decision you have to make. I'm gonna do this with the caveat of, if Pantheon is bad, it drops to 2nd. And that's what I get. I know people are gonna hate that, but this is my list. And I think all around, I'm really happy with this entire list. Okay, that's the list.